The titles of the sermon today is Jewels in the Seventh Day. So which means that some jewels are hidden in the seventh day Sabbath, and we are going to find out those jewels today. We have some memories that we like to reflect, right? And for me, I like to recall the birth of my two children. And whenever I try to remember, whenever I reflect the moments they were delivered, it amazes me how they came out of the world and became my son and daughter. It's so amazing. And if God also liked to recall from the history of His reign, what would He recall? Since I do not know the history of other planets, and I think it's about His creation, especially the sixth day when He created Adam and Eve, more than in His image and in His likeness. Don't you think so? So it's this beautiful moment. So God would reflect that moment because He liked them and loved them so much. And after my daughter and son were born, my favorite time of the day, especially they were younger, when just watching them, sometimes crying, laughing, smiling, even pooping and eating, and all beautiful, right? Even pooping, because I think my wife changed diaper, that's why. Even pooping was beautiful, all the moments. And parents like to spend time with their kids, their children, and also children like to spend time with their parents. Do you think God also wanted to spend time with newly created son and daughter, Adam and Eve? Yeah, yes, as a matter of fact, He did. As you know, God created everything in 6 days, and on the seventh day, when sun was setting, God had done something very, very special. If we compare all other things, I think this is the most special thing God has done. And the book of Genesis records this event. Anna beautifully read this Bible passage, but I'm going to read it again. Genesis chapter 2, verses 1 and 3, so the heavens and the earth, and all the hosts of them were finished. And on the seventh day, God ended His work which had done, and He rested on the seventh day from all His work which He had done. And verse 3, then God blessed the seventh day and sanctified it, because in it He rested from all His work which God had created and made. And about 2,400,000 years later, God made it more clear when He gave 10 commandments to Israelites on Mount Sinai. It's Exodus chapter 20. If you have a Bible with you, please go to Exodus chapter 20, verses 8 to 11, and read along with me. It's Exodus chapter 20, verses 8 to 11. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work. But the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord your God. In it you shall do no work. You, nor your son, nor your daughter, nor your male servant, nor your female servant, nor your cattle, nor your stranger who is within your gates. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea, and all that is in them, and rest the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. So Exodus 20:11 gives us a reason that why God commands us to keep the Sabbath, right? What is it that? What is the reason God commanded us to keep the Sabbath? According to Exodus chapter 20, verse 11. It's a memorial day of God's creation. And 40 years later, after Exodus, the Israelites were ready to enter the promised land, Canaan. And before they entered the land, the Moses was telling them, reminding them what God had done the last 40 years. And then Deuteronomy chapter 5, 15, he reminded the Ten Commandments, and he said, and remember that you are slave in the land of Egypt. And the Lord your God brought you out from there is a mighty hand, by a mighty hand, and by an outstretched arm. Therefore the Lord your God commanded you to keep the Sabbath day. So Exodus chapter 20 verse 8 give us 11 give us a reason why we keep the Sabbath as a memorial day of creation, right? But Deuteronomy 5:15 as another reason. What's that? It's a memorial day of redemption. Right? It's the memorial day of redemption. And so God freed them from slavery in Egypt and led them to the promised land. And later, when Jesus came to this earth, and he added another reason. And before that, the Israelites who were saved from their slavery and led to the promised land, they represent whom? That every Christian who will be saved in the name of Jesus Christ and who will be led to the promised land, eternal kingdom. And that's why John the Baptist said when he saw Jesus, behold, the Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world. Okay? So God provides two reasons why we should keep the Sabbath, memorial day of creation and the memorial day of redemption. But as I said, Jesus gave us another reason in Mark chapter 2 verse 27. The Sabbath was made for men and not man for the Sabbath. In other words, God made the Sabbath for whom? For us. God made the Sabbath for us. So we should be blessed that we keep the Sabbath. So this is my question. Have you been blessed as you keep the Sabbath? I can simply identify your answer. How? Do you wait for Friday sunset or do you wait for Saturday sunset? If you have been blessed through the Sabbath, probably you have been waiting for Friday sunset. Somehow it has been burdened for you to keep the Sabbath. Probably you have been waiting for Saturday sunset. And the blessings that the Genesis chapter 2 verses 1 to 3 talk about, and today I'm going to see the blessing in the perspective of this world. Prosperity and rich, success. So I'm going to see it in the worldly view of the blessing. And so as we read twice, and I read once, and I read second time, God did three things on the seventh day. The first seventh day on earth. What did he do? He rested, he blessed, he sanctified. So he did three things on the Sabbath. And if we see the structure of Hebrew, I'm not an expert of Hebrew, but it's more obvious how God emphasized the seventh day in those three verses. The seventh day mentioned three times in those three verses, Genesis 2 verses 1 to 3. Then each sentence was composed with 7 Hebrew words. That's a Hebrew literature. It's very much emphasized in 3 verses. If I repeat again, God mentioned Sabbath day 3 times in 3 verses. And each of them was composed with 7 Hebrew words. The Sabbath day was very much highlighted in those verses. And what's another name for the seventh day? Sabbath, that's another name for the seventh day. So we can see that God was going to tell us very, very important lessons about this special day. Otherwise, he would not repeat it 3 times in 3 verses. So let's begin with rest. What is rest? It's very ambiguous words because everyone thinks rest differently. Some would think like going to beach. It's a cool breeze, and you are having your favorite book to read, and beside you their favorite tea, and everything is so perfect. Well, another person will think of a cabin. You know, the sound of the bunny birds are chirping, and you listen to the sound of a stream flows, and everything is so quiet. Do you like that? And while some people think rest is like you go to superstore and buy the snacks, everything you like, and go to your bedroom and you turn on your favorite movie and just eating and watching and you just sleep, and that's rest for some people, right? And since the concept of rest is different among us, let's ask God what rest is. Genesis chapter 2 verse 2 says God ended his work. So what work? Creation. So it refers to the word of 6 days of creation. So these are something that God had done before rested. What are they? What did God do before he rested? He completed his work of his creation. And he stopped. So those 2 things are really essential when we want to enter into God's rest. Not our concept of rest, but concept of God's rest. So what are 2 things? The completion of the work. When Friday sunset approaches, you just stop. And that's what God did. God completed his work of creation. When it was done, he stopped. So what did he do after he stopped his work of creation? So he stopped and he rested, right? Right? Yeah, he rested. However, if we listen from Jesus, he says something differently about God's rest. And when Pharisees accused Jesus because of his healing ministry on the Sabbath day, he said to them, John 5:17, but Jesus answered them, my Father has been working until now, and I have been working. Oh. Genesis chapter 2 says God rested on the 7th day, and now Jesus is saying, no, he worked. Contradiction, right? Contradiction. But the Bible shouldn't be contradicting each other, right? Then we must understand that rest that Genesis 2 is not something that we think about. Because God never gets tired. Do you agree with that? God never gets tired. And Adam and Eve, when the Sabbath was given to them after creation, they were like a God in this sense. They never got tired. So when Genesis chapter 2 said God rested, it's not the physical rest after hard laboring. But this is something different. So the God is want you to understand that concept of rest. The rest here, God rested, is completing the work and starting another work. I hope you get it this way. So God created everything in 6 days. That's the work he has been doing. And what did he do? He completed and he stopped. And he began to do another work. That's what Jesus was saying. And what kind of work he did, we're going to talk about in another sermon. So we are not going there today. But anyway, that's what I understood about when I compared what Jesus said, what Genesis chapter 2 said. So it's not really rest. Let me give you one example. If I have backpacking trip, like 30 pounds of backpack, and I walk 3 hours, and after that, it's time to rest. So I take my backpack and sit on the ground. Is it rest? Yeah? It's rest, right? But if I sitting on the ground, just same posture for 3 hours, still rest? No, you will be tired sitting on the ground for 3 hours. After a long day of work, you retire to your bed. Oh, it's so nice, right? But if you have to stay and lay on your bed 12 hours, it's not rest. You'll be so uncomfortable. And I want to stand up, but you have to lay down on your bed. Even sitting at the beach, beach chair, everything is so nice, but if you have to stay in the chair for 10 hours, different story, right? You want to do something else. You rather walk around than sitting there. That's why I said rest is an ambiguous word. We do not really understand what rest is. So that's what we must understand. It's not really stopping everything. Unless we die, we continue to work on something. So it's like stop one thing and start another thing. And stop this and start another thing. And when you complete stop and start another work, that's rest. And what we have to work when during the week we do different kind of work. And on the seventh day we stop and start to do another kind of work. It's not resting on your bed. So I'm going to go there on the next sermon. So what happens if we don't know how to stop and start another work? You will be, it will be stressful. And now I'm talking about mind. What's going on in your mind? If you start one work and you haven't finished, you start another work, in your mind it will be overlapped. Let me give you an example. before you come to church, something happened in your house. And you worried about it. Something has been broken. And you come to church and start to listen to the Word of God. But you're like worrying about the broken thing in your house, still overlapping here. So in your mind, there are two kinds of things going on, right? One is thinking about the broken things. Oh, I have to fix it. And at the same time, you try to listen to what God says to you this morning. It's overlapped. When it's overlapped, there's no rest. If one man think about two women, there's no rest. Okay, I'll check. Oh, women think about two men. There's no rest. And when it's more than 2, 3, 4, and 5 all go together, you'll be depressed. And you need to take medicine for your depression. When it's more than you can handle, like 20, 30 things all together, mixing together, and just overlap in your mind, you'll be hospitalized. And probably Ben, you can tell me better, but I heard nowadays that every second person you see, I hope not in the church, but out of the church, they have a mental problem. Today, is that true? Real? Why is it that? They do not know how to stop. Mind is always busy with something. So many things overlap. So the world we are living today is restless. Restless. Because we forgot how to stop. And different time of the year, people cease from work and take a vacation. Hooray! But still their mind hasn't been stopped. So it doesn't matter which place you go to. And you pay like $1,000 and go to the most beautiful place in the world. But if your mind still hasn't been stopped from your work, your worries, your problems, it's a wasting of money to go there because your mind is still working there. And why do you pay money to go there to work? Now, as I mentioned, it's the same to coming to church. If your mind is overlapped with something that you have been doing during the week while we worship God, you are lost in the church. Do you know what I mean? It's important to come to church on the Sabbath day and worship God, but it's more important that your mind has to stop when Sabbath comes, so that you can enter into God's rest. But if your mind hasn't been stopped, even though you are sitting here and listening to the Word of God, still you are breaking the Sabbath, not keeping it holy, because your mind is still working, worrying, and anxious about something, not resting in God. So if something is still stirred in your heart, Sabbath blessing cannot rest on you. So if you don't know how to stop, it would be disaster. About 10 years ago, I wanted to learn inline skating. Inline skating is skate with wheels down bottom of the shoes. So I bought one pair of inline skates and went to the park, and I was wearing them, and one elderly man approached to me. Excuse me. And he said, "Oh, probably you are very good at inline skating." And I said, Oh no, this is my first time to wear it. And he said, then you're not supposed to buy this kind of inline skating. This is for professional. Okay, but that's what I bought. And he introduced himself. He used to be the skate, professional skater. And he said, if you want, I can teach you how to ride inline skating. Thank you so much. So he asked me to stand like this. And he just held my pelvis here. And he told me, just let my hand control you. Just you relax. So I'm a runner, so I know how to relax. So I just relaxed and I just let him control my body. After 30 minutes, he said, now you can ride. Really? So I tried myself. Amazing, I could do it. The problem, he didn't teach me how to stop. So when I was riding, it gets faster and faster in front of there are so many people. So I shouted, get away, get away, I don't know how to stop. Then eventually I plunged into the grass and I fell down. It's the same in our hearts. If we do not know how to stop, it's a disaster. And God sanctified the seventh day. What is sanctification? It's setting something apart for special purpose, right? So those who are married, you sanctified your wife or husband from other men and women to be a wife and to be your husband. That's sanctification. Setting someone or something apart for special purpose. So here in the context of Genesis chapter 2, verse 1 to 3, sanctification means the seventh day is different from other 6 days. What are other 6 days? Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. This Saturday is totally different. Why? Because God set it apart for special purpose. And we already know why God set it apart, right? And why is it special? Because God made it special. That's that's what creator can do, right? So I'm a creator, I do something, that's what I intend to do it. So we should not ask, why Saturday is special? And God will say, I made it special. Okay? Then I'd like to ask you a question. Does sanctification relate to our daily life? How does it relate to our daily lives? The beginning of the sermon I told you, I'm going to share the blessing of the Sabbath in the worldly perspective. Okay? So all about our life is sanctification, if you understand properly. Okay. We sanctify God from idols. Is that true? So we sanctify the Sabbath from other 6 days as God's holy day. And as I said, a bride and groom sanctify each other as a husband and wife. So, what happens if a husband and wife fail to sanctify each other? Broken homes, broken family, right? What happens if a student fails to sanctify his study? He'll be failed and have to re-register again and pay more money. So what happens if a soccer player fails to sanctify soccer from other sports? Yeah, he'll be kicked off from the team. You play basketball, not soccer anymore. So we have a trumpet player today here. And what if a trumpeter failed to sanctify his instrument? What would happen to him? he wouldn't be a good trumpeter, right? Because he spent some doing some other stuff, and eventually when he tried to, play trumpet, make it good sound, not good sound. And what if I fail to sanctify this time while I'm preaching to you? If I say, oh, I didn't get my phone yet. Let me basically, I'll just send text message, okay? Oh, finished. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, mail. Okay, I will check just mail and what happened? And you will be, right? What are you doing, Pastor, there? You'll be upset. See, then my relationship with you will get worse. And if I do it repeatedly every Sabbath, you'll call to conference, right? An email to conference, say, hey, I have a problem with my pastor. While he preaches, he answers the phone, send text messages, and read email. We cannot bear him anymore. What happens? I fail to sanctify this time of preaching, sharing the word of God. Then you and me relationship will be broken. No man can do anything right and successive if he doesn't know how to sanctify anybody. Did you get it? So our lives is full of sanctification. And there is a nation which has kept the Sabbath from the very beginning of its history. What nation is that? It's too easy, right? Don't you know? Israel, right? From the beginning of its history, they kept the Sabbath. Even though sometime in their history, they lost the spirit of the keeping the Sabbath. But even until today, they have a form of keeping the Sabbath. And does keeping the Sabbath made Israel different from other nations? Okay. As of 2017, Nobel Prize have been awarded to 902 individuals, of whom 203 or 22.5% were Jews. 22.5 is big, right? But please listen continually. Although the total Jewish population comprises less than 0.2% of world population. This means that the percentage of Jewish Nobel winners is at least 112.5 times, or 11,250% of average. It's very, very unique statistics, right? But think about it. If those Nobel Prize winners, if they fail to sanctify their own area, do you think they could receive Nobel Prize? No, that's not possible. Because they sanctified, dedicated, and committed in that area, they could win Nobel Prize. As a matter of fact, South Koreans are smart people, I'm sorry. But that's the fact anyway. Except state countries like Hong Kong, Singapore, Korea is like, in the terms of IQ, the Korea is highest. If you didn't know, but we have only one Nobel Prize. That's even the Nobel Prize, Peace Nobel Prize. But the occurrence statistics is a little bit different, but Jewish, their IQ is something like 40s or sometimes 12s, and it's bottom down there. But it's not about IQ then, right? And as parents teach their children how to keep the Sabbath holy, they were teaching them how to sanctify. You got it? The Jewish parents, as they educate their children how to keep the Sabbath holy, they're focused on keeping the Sabbath holy. But as children learn to keep it holy, they learn about sanctification. So as they go to different stages of their lives, they learn to sanctify other things. In school, they sanctify their study. When they get married, they sanctify their spouse. When they go to professional field, they sanctify their professional field. Not all of them, but high percentage of people. So those for 1,000 years, more than 4,000 years of Jewish history, the sanctification is the flowing in their blood. History, on a century by century, it has been flowing in their blood. That I believe it will be the history of a Seventh-day Adventist after, I don't know, maybe a few centuries later, the Nobel Prize winners will come out of Seventh-day Adventists. If we keep the Sabbath as God says, if you teach our children to keep the Sabbath holy as God commanded, it will be our history. So sanctification is a foundation of any person's life. If you have the foundation, your life won't be shaken. If it's solid, you will be successful in whatever things you do. Isn't that amazing? So sanctification will teach you how to stop. Right? So when husband sanctifies wife and still sees beautiful woman, and his desire may try to arise to approach the girl, but sanctification will help him to stop. Okay, I sanctified my wife. It's everything about our lives is sanctification. And sanctification will teach you how to stop on the Friday sunset and come to church and be ready to be blessed. And if you learn how to stop, believe, your life will be restful. How many of you think your life is restful? Oh, you. Great. You. I wanted to preach. I prepared this sermon. I began to prepare this sermon about 2 months ago. But while I was preparing, I began to realize that my life was not restful. Since I moved to Winnipeg and pastoring 2 churches and reorganizing things and committees and different things, my mind has been so busy. Even though I'm doing God's work, still for a certain period of time, I failed to stop. It's my confession. And I felt tired and a little bit depressed. And while I was preparing this, no, I cannot preach about rest while my mind is busy and my life is not restful. So I have been praying and waited for a while. And now I thought it's time to preach. So even pastors doing God's work, fail to keep the Sabbath. Right? So, you need to learn to stop if you want your life to be restful. If there is rest, there will be peace. Is that true? And when you are restful and you have peace in your heart, what will happen? The joy will overflow. In your mind state, you do your work will be more efficient and will be more successful. Do you need anything else in your life? No, rest, peace, joy, success on the things you have been doing. Do you need anything else? It's enough? Enough? No. Okay. If it's enough, that's why God blessed. You know, it's very strange that God blessed a living thing. You know what? It's very unusual that God blessed, God sanctified not living thing. But God blessed this seventh day so that we can enter into that blessing. God sanctified the seventh day so that we can learn to sanctify Him and everything else. So if a man sanctify the Sabbath and stop his work, enter into the Sabbath rest, he's the blessed man. That's what I'm trying to explain to you. The keeping the Sabbath, there's underground, that's jewels, like a more precious than diamond, is hidden in the keeping the Sabbath. Do you have any relationship problem? Do you have any financial problem? Study problem? Work problem? Sanctify them. But if you don't know how to sanctify them, then begin to keep the Sabbath holy. The Sabbath will teach you how to sanctify those things. So if you don't know how to sanctify them yet, I will give you Sabbath commandment. Keep it holy. If you have been keeping the Sabbath, but still your life is not restful, you do not have peace, joy, the blessing that God has bestowed on the Sabbath day, if you are not enjoying that Sabbath rest, recover to your life. I also give you the Sabbath commandment. Keep it holy. Sabbath is given for man, made for man. Right? Because God wants you to know how to sanctify Him and others and everything else, so that your life on earth still can be restful. While you are here on earth, you will experience success and prosperity, so that we can endure this world until He takes us to home, our eternal kingdom. Dear brothers and sisters, it's for your blessing. Keep the Sabbath holy.